The title of the talk is Where God is at Work in Digital Missions. Russ oversees digital strategies for Crew in the Asia Pacific region and is based in Singapore. Globally, Crew exposes 220 million plus people to the gospel each year with digital. In 2013, Russ helped envision and was a part of the founding team of the Indigitous network. Russ studied computer science at the University of Waterloo in Canada and grew up as an avid ice hockey player and referee. Running, reading Harvard Business Review, and listening to Invest Like the Best are his hobbies today. Russ is married to Meredith and has 3 young children. Russ is part of the Quantic EMBA 2021 class. So that being said, Russ, you have the floor.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It's great to be with you and joining you from Singapore this morning. As we begin here, I'll share that there are more people in the world that have a mobile phone than a toothbrush today. And as sad as this statistic is for health development goals, it really presents a significant opportunity for the Great Commission. And I love what Pastor Craig Rochelle from Life Church says. He says, to reach people that no one else is reaching, we need to do things that no one else is doing. And so simply put, digital missions is using all of the digital content, digital channels, digital experiences, digital technology that is available to us to bring the gospel to the last, the lost, and the least, to every tribe, tongue, people, and nation. And just as the Roman roads were really significant in the Apostle Paul spreading the gospel early on, I believe that digital technology today is one of the most significant opportunities for us to help advance the kingdom forward and bring the gospel where it's not. Now, in digital missions, one of the significant things we have in digital is that we can shape a journey for people, a pathway of little micro steps that are focused on helping them take their next best step wherever they might be at in their journey of faith with God. And so whether they're far from God or whether they're trying to really deepen their relationship with God, we can shape a journey and a pathway for them. And I want to share with you a few examples of how we see that happening around the world. Especially in light of COVID-19, we find that more and more people, just like they do with every other thing in their life, they go to search to find answers. People are searching for hope. And this is from one of the websites in our ecosystem. We can see that as COVID-19 set on, the number of people that wanted to get connected with an online mentor really dramatically increased in March. And so as people are searching for hope, we're at the question, how might we connect them with another person that can offer them hope? And so here we have online mentor, their response to people searching for hope. I love what happened with one of our campus teams in the Middle East, and this dovetailed about new approaches in campus ministry. And as they started to do some advertising on social media to find out where might God be working and what students could we engage and interact with, they actually found that they were able to have much deeper conversations online. And instead of just walking around campus and getting rejected, many of the conversations digitally online started with, tell me more about Jesus. And they were able to begin that journey and that process of helping someone discover Jesus. I love what our teams in Africa are doing, using social chat channels like WhatsApp to do real-time evangelism and discipleship, and to find people who God is working in their heart, but they say, I need a community of people to help me grow. And they're using chat channels to get content to people, to facilitate discussions, to help people in their search for meaning and destiny. I love what's happening in Southeast Asia. There's a group called Boiling Waters, based in the Philippines, and they're trying to help young men and women make sense of what's going on in their life. And they post 3 to 5 memes every day on the Boiling Water social channel, and they've grown an audience of over 1 million people every day engaging with their content. But they're not just there to make funny memes. They're actually there to shape a pathway towards helping people discover who Jesus is and how he can make a difference in their life. And their social leads people into email series, it leads them into chat groups, it leads them into webinars, and they even have face-to-face meetups happening with young people beginning to discover who Jesus is. Another one of my favorites is a product called Mission Hub. And Mission Hub is all about helping you take simple steps of faith with those around you. And so if you tell the app about one of your friends, a little bit of where they're at in their spiritual journey, the app actually suggests very simple, easy to take micro steps of faith that you can use with someone in your sphere of influence to help them begin to know and follow Jesus. And what we're finding is that many people don't even know where to start in helping someone come to know Christ. And so a simple app experience like this can help you know what kind of next step you might want to take. So there's lots of journeys being shaped in digital missions. Let me talk just for a few minutes about some of the high-level trends that I see happening as we seek to bring Jesus to people using digital. So the first is experience. More and more, it's not just content that people are after. They're actually after experience. And so we see people experimenting with church in VR. I know of some groups doing ESL and English Corner lessons within VR to meet and help people. We know that the world is shifting immensely towards gaming and this concept of the metaverse. And so there's lots of experiments beginning to happen with there of how can we help, again, shape one of those pathways for people in discovering Jesus in an immersive environment. More and more, it's all about the experience. Secondly, we see different teams and organizations really trying to think through what data do we have available to us and how do we use that data about people that we're interacting with to shape a pathway and a next best step for them. Some of our work at Crew is using what we call the scale of praxis. And if there's information and interactions and data that we can learn about someone through their interactions with our platform, how can we use that data to seek to understand, based on observable behavior, where someone might be on this scale of praxis, the scale of belief, and how can we then use that to shape offers and experiences and connections with people that are going to help them take their next best step, all informed by massive amounts of data that we can now use in that spiritual discovery process. And then lastly, we're seeing a major engagement in chat all around the world. As you interact with major brands, you probably may have experienced that you yourself prefer to chat and get help that way. And so for a long time, web servers have been leading people to Christ through web pages and online content experiences. And so now one of the intensive areas of development is around chat and chatbots, and how can you help a chatbot have a spiritual conversation with someone? When is it appropriate to hand that conversation over to a real live human being, and when can a chatbot just kind of continue on that conversation? So again, a lot of work and development happening in that space. And lastly, I want to speak about this morning, how can everyday believers like you and I be involved in digital missions? I love this paper from Ray Davis of the IMB, and he speaks about this fourth era of modern missions where technology and social media is actually enabling every disciple to play a part in helping to fulfill the Great Commission and how we're actually beginning to see the priesthood of all believers emerge, empowered by digital. And I love to say, if you have a phone, you can share your faith. Sharing your faith has never been more simple. There's tons of app experiences. There's tons of social media methods that you can use. Lots of different apps and experiences all around the world that you simply need to download to your phone to be prepared to have a conversation with someone, to be prepared to answer a question, to initiate a conversation, to share an article, to share a video, to respond to an inbound message from someone somewhere in the world who might be struggling or need help. I encourage you to think of what does it mean to be prepared on your phone with the gospel in your pocket. And then secondly, in this area of like-minded believers being involved, I love what the faith tech community did in the heart of COVID-19. They said, wow, there's tons of people around the world who have skills in technology. How can we leverage that to solve the most pressing problems in our communities and in the church during COVID-19? And they brought together a network of people from around the world to have a hackathon and to solve some really interesting problems in the light of COVID-19. You know, I think it's really a shame that there are many believers in our churches who go to work every day trying to solve billion people user problems. They're working at some of the world's best companies, trying to solve some of the world's most pressing challenges. And the opportunities that we give them to be involved are often man the welcome table, or would you be an usher, or would you play in the worship band? And there's nothing wrong with those opportunities. Those are needed and an essential part of our church. But I believe that believers that are engaged in our communities often have so much more to offer. And the Indigitous network, in partnership with lots of other organizations all around the world, again, will be organizing a hackathon in 47 global cities this October to say, how can we use the skills and abilities that God has given us to come up with new and enhanced and accelerated ways to bring the gospel to every corner of the earth. And as exciting as all of these different opportunities are, as excited as I get about all the technology, I'm sobered by the reality that there are still roughly 2/3 of the world's population, a little under that, 2/3 of the world's population, that do not yet know or follow Jesus. And so there's a significant need and a significant opportunity, whether it's at a high-rise complex in Los Angeles or whether it's a rural village in India. There are people that are waiting for us to bring the gospel to them, and I believe that digital offers one of the most significant opportunities today to do that. And so ultimately, it's not about building apps. It's not about building websites. It's not about big data, machine learning, or VR. Ultimately, it's about bringing the life-changing message of Jesus to a generation that desperately needs it. Digital missions is about one thing: making disciples. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Russ. Great to hear about the work you're doing. So, you know, on the one hand, my current thought is, on the one hand, with the expansion of internet connectivity, especially via phones, it's a lot easier for a lot of people groups around the world to be connected and ministered to. But there is also, especially as someone who in the past worked in wireless technology, there's also this growing digital divide between people who have good internet connectivity and those who do not, whether it's stateside or abroad. And so, and then just to add one more element to that, there is, for example, the Great China Firewall, where certain websites are not accessible from inside the country. And so I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on those aspects of the work you do.
Yeah, these are really significant issues. I actually just finished, well, it's not really finished, but began a project in Francophone speaking Africa, where as we seek to work with our teams there, they're all saying, in light of COVID, in light of the massive pivots to digital, we need to be all in on digital. But our missionaries and our students, they can't afford the devices and the connectivity costs that it costs. And so we had to work on some subsidization and do some fundraising just to bring connectivity to them. And I actually think that Christians working in the marketplace, working on some of these issues of how do we bring connectivity to places like West Africa, some of the places in Southeast Asia, that's actually one of the biggest missional challenges today that needs solving. And the Great Commission would go forward in really significant ways if we could solve some of those problems. So yes, those are really big issues. And then again, in China with the content issues, you've got to be really innovative. I think my point about the priesthood of all believers, using social networks, how do we really decentralize and push that to the edges so that the everyday Christian is equipped to share their faith in their place of influence on their social network. And of course, that's got to be coupled with the large scale, broad exposure strategies, but ultimately some of that can be much easier shut down by governments than believers who are equipped and just working within their little social sphere.
Yeah, thanks. Great to hear from you. Russ, thank you so much for what you've shared today. I think there may be a question here. I think it's directed at you, but there's a question from, I think, Tim. How do you follow up with disciples? What's the secret to continuously raise disciples? I guess maybe if I reframe it in the context of your question, how do you follow up with people who are starting to become more engaged digitally?
Yeah, really good question. That's a problem we're really actively working on. In Indigitous and in my work with Crew, we talk a lot about the concept of a guide. And so we believe that when the sooner we can connect someone with a guide that can help them, the better the probability or the better the conditions for spiritual growth are going to be. And so we're trying to redesign and re-envision all of our digital experiences around what does it look like to be connected with someone on the journey. And if we can get them into a texting relationship or a social community, a WhatsApp group, a Telegram group, a Facebook group, an email series where they're interacting with another person, we're starting to see some data that would suggest that are the most effective conditions for helping someone become an effective and lasting disciple.
Thank you. Oh, I think there's one more, and I think we have time for one more question. John, do you want to go ahead and ask this question yourself?
Sure, I'd love to. Thanks so much, Tammy. Hi, Russ. I'm a big fan of the work that you do. I think that it's the frontier of a lot of the mission movement, specifically because of some of the barriers that we have in the world that can be overcome through this medium. And I'm curious about specifically this question, the second level of it that you mentioned of having a guide. I know it's important to transition from online to in person so that people can walk out their discipleship in a community that's in their context. And so I'm curious about if there's any stories or best practices of what you're envisioning is the best way to take people from online to in person, and how to get those channel partnerships established so that local pastors and local technology leaders can really work together with you. Because in a typical context, it's a little bit easier when you know people, but when they're across the world, it has a lot of danger, or it has a lot of communication barrier too, right?
Yeah, excellent question. So one of the advantages that Crew, as being sort of birthed out of a campus ministry, has is that we have a pretty broad network of people around the world in many different countries. And so what we're working on right now is how do we take those contacts that surface either, well, any channel really, through web or through social, and how do we get them into relationship with someone on the ground? And it depends a little bit on the geographic context, because somewhere like Ethiopia, it's a lot easier to make that connection, and it's safer to make that connection than in a place like Turkey or like Indonesia. And so it kind of really depends on the geographic context of the ministry. But we're trying to develop a network of partners around the world who then are willing to receive connections that surface online or through digital, and then would take the next step with them. And actually, we have some really good best practices from Turkey, where there's an Instagram channel that people get connected with. And then our people working that Instagram channel are trained and know how to ask good questions to kind of begin to transfer that relationship from kind of the brand channel to a personal channel, and then ultimately either a WhatsApp or a Telegram channel. And as people get to know each other, they can kind of make an assessment on whether it's safe to begin to meet up or safe to begin to invite this person into a fellowship or a community. So there's lots of nuance on that. It looks different in different places. I would say we're still learning as we go. And then, yes, definitely we're trying to employ A/B testing to understand the best conditions for success of getting someone integrated.
Great. Russ, thank you so much. I like the reminder of different cultural contexts and safety around that as well, that you mentioned in your question. All right, I think we've got a couple of, maybe one last question. I do see there's one note on, YouTube that says, a lot of context and understanding can be lost in chat. I wonder how that divide is being approached. Is that something you want to answer before we transition to the next speaker?
Yeah, that's a good question, especially across cultural divide. That can be really helpful. I know sometimes when I'm engaging with people from other cultures, I really have to put on my cross-cultural training and to understand, like, hey, what is the meaning behind what they're saying? So definitely the more we can help people get towards a more synchronous channel or engagement, the better. But oftentimes, I think the anonymity or the asynchronous of chat actually helps people to feel safer and to feel more open and to feel like they can think about their responses. So I think there's actually a lot of pros to the medium, actually on both sides of helping someone through their question or their issue or their discovery. But yeah, that's a really big challenge. And again, I would just point back to we're really attempting to get someone in relationship with a guide. And that can happen very well over chat. But if the mentor and the mentee are from the same culture or they have the same context, even better.
Great. Thank you very much, Russ. It was great to hear your talk today and your answers to our questions.